Hello dear students, I am Sumana Ghosh and today I am here to teach you power sharing, which is chapter 1 from class 10th civics. So in this chapter we are actually going to explore the kinds of democracies in two different nations. So we begin with Belgium. Now Belgium is a country, as you all know, it's in Europe. It is in Europe, but when we see the size of Belgium, it is even smaller than the state of Haryana, smaller than Haryana. And Belgium has a population which is near to 1 crore. So population is about 1 crore, is near about 1 crore. So again, it is about half the population of Haryana. It is half the population of Haryana. So in spite of being such a small nation, in spite of having such a less population, why is Belgium in the headlines, in the news headlines, or why is Belgium in this chapter? Basically, Belgium has a very unique kind of ethnic composition. So let's see the ethnic composition of Belgium. The ethnic composition of Belgium is again remarkable because for the entire country of Belgium, the ethnic composition is different, and for the capital city of Brussels, the ethnic composition is different. So let's first see the ethnic composition in the whole country. In the whole country, very interesting, 59% of the population is Dutch speaking, and they live in the Flemish region of Belgium. They live in the Flemish region. Whereas 40% of the population is French speaking, and they live in the Wallonia region of Belgium. So these two constitute 99%. So what about 1%? 1% of the population of the whole country, 1% is German speaking. So here we have seen that the Dutch speaking population is the majority in the whole country, and next comes the French speaking people. Now when we see the ethnic composition of Belgium, when we see the ethnic composition of Brussels, which is the capital city of Belgium, then it is totally different. 80% of the population is French speaking. 80% of the population is French speaking, and 20% is Dutch speaking. 20% is Dutch speaking. So what have we seen here? Imagine the scenario is totally reverse. For the whole country, Dutch speaking population is the majority, but in the capital Brussels, Dutch speaking population is the minority. For the whole country, the French speaking population is minority, but for Brussels, the capital, French speaking population is a majority. So isn't it a contrast? So this is about Belgium. Now we have also seen the ethnic composition of Belgium for the whole country, as well as ethnic composition in the capital city of Brussels. So by seeing this contrast in the percentage of French speaking and Dutch speaking population, it is quite understandable, and in true sense also it was that in Belgium, the French speaking population in the whole country, they were a minority, but they were quite rich and prosperous, even privileged class. So they got all facilities of education, even job opportunities. They had a fast economic development compared to the Dutch-speaking population. The Dutch-speaking population at times felt deprived because they were not getting equal access to education as well as job opportunities compared to the French-speaking population. Now we shift our focus to another nation, that is Sri Lanka. So as we all know, Sri Lanka is a small island nation which is in Asia, which is in the Indian subcontinent only, Sri Lanka. So the size of Sri Lanka is that of the size of the state of Haryana, and the population of Sri Lanka is about 2 crore. So in size it is similar to that of Haryana, and in terms of population, the population is 2 crore, so which is equal, almost equal to the population, similar to that of Haryana. And being an island nation, Sri Lanka is quite close to the coastline of Tamil Nadu state. So here, let us see the ethnic composition of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka got independence in the year 1948. Even before 1948 also, the ethnic composition of Sri Lanka was something like this, that 74% of the population were Sinhala speaking, and 18% of the population were Tamil speaking. So majority was the Sinhala speaking population, and Tamil speaking population, again we see it was a minority. Now when we see the Tamil speaking population, again 2 types of Tamil speaking population was there in Sri Lanka. That is, when we see the Tamil speaking population was of 2 kinds. One were the native Tamils known as Sri Lankan Tamils, and another was the Indian Tamils. So the difference between these 2 population was that the native Tamils, they were native to Sri Lanka, they are native to Sri Lanka, they have never moved out of Sri Lanka, whereas the Indian Tamils, their forefathers actually had gone to work in the plantations of Sri Lanka, and since then they have remained there and they have become the citizens of Sri Lanka, so they are considered to be the Indian Tamils. Now the native Tamils, they occupy the northern and eastern part of Sri Lanka. Northern and eastern part of Sri Lanka. So as we have seen, majority of population in Sri Lanka is that of the Sinhala speaking people, and Tamils are minorities. Again, when we see their religion, the Sinhalas speaking majority population, they are basically Buddhists. Whereas the Tamils are both the Hindu as well as Muslim population, and it is said that 7% of the population of Sri Lanka are Christians. 7% of the population of Sri Lanka are Christians. These Christians can also be amongst the Sinhalas as well as the Tamils. So let's do a short recapitulation of whatever we have studied so far. First of all, we have taken the country Belgium, which is a very small nation, and Belgium is even smaller than the state of Haryana. Its population is also about 1 crore, which is half the population of Haryana. And Belgium, it shares its borders with countries like Germany, France, Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Belgium is having a quite diverse ethnic composition, as we have seen that 59% of the population in Belgium, they are Dutch-speaking people who live in the Flemish region, and 40% of the population is French-speaking population who live in the Wallonia region, and 1% of the population is German. So this is the ethnic composition of Belgium as a whole. But the ethnic composition of Brussels, the capital Brussels, is a little different. Here we see that 80% of the population are French speaking, whereas 20% of the population are Dutch speaking. And we have also seen that the Dutch, they were not having access to modern education or even economic development until late, whereas the French speaking people had quite good access to education. They were more privileged, they were rich and prosperous. So there was a slight discontentment among the people of the Dutch-speaking population, thinking that even we are a majority in the entire nation, but look at our condition, we are basically poor, we do not have access to all the economic facilities, not education or job opportunities are not equal for us. So we'll shift our later on again to Belgium. Let's shift our focus to Sri Lanka. What we have studied so far is that Sri Lanka is similar to that of Haryana in size, even population wise also it is similar to that of Haryana, 2 crore. And let's talk about Sri Lanka even before independence, that is Sri Lanka became an independent nation in 1948. So even before that, what was the ethnic composition of Sri Lanka? 74% of the population are Sinhala speaking, whereas 18%, only 18% are Tamil speaking. Again, we have the two types of Tamils stay in Sri Lanka. One are the native Tamils who are basically native to Sri Lanka, occupying the northern and the eastern part of Sri Lanka. And we also have the Indian Tamils who have settled, who had gone at some point of time, they had gone to Sri Lanka to work as the plantation workers, and since then they have stayed there, and even their subsequent generations are also the citizens of Sri Lanka. So we have seen that the Sinhalas are basically Buddhists. Part of Sinhalas are also Christians. Tamils may be both Hindus as well as Muslims. So we have seen that 7% of the population of Sri Lanka is are Christians who may be belonging to both Sinhala as well as Tamils. So moving on further, we see that in Sri Lanka, election took place and elected government came to power, but this elected government had dominance of the Sinhala speaking people, since they were the dominant community in the entire country. So what happens later? Let us see. So we see that after the government came to power, most of the ministers in the government were Sinhala. So they started adopting a policy which we will say as majoritarianism. They started adopting a policy called majoritarianism. So in this policy, what happens is that the majority community of any nation thinks that we have the right to be in the government and we have the right to rule the entire country. So this happened with the Sinhala community also. They formed the government, majority of the ministers were from the Sinhala community, and they felt that now they are going to adopt the majoritarianism and they are going to give more rights, more facilities to their own community people. So what did they do? In the year 1956, they passed one act, which is also known as the Act of 1956. According to this act, it was said that Sinhala will be the only official language of Sri Lanka. The only official language of Sri Lanka. So by this they disregarded another language, that is Tamil. One by one, now they started taking more steps which showed that they were adopting totally a majoritarianism policy. The second thing that they did was that most of the government jobs, the job opportunities, education facilities, that was given to the Sinhala people only, and it was hardly given to the people of the Tamil communities. Then what all things they did was, one was Sinhala was made to be made the only official language, giving more facilities, more amenities to the Sinhala people in terms of government jobs, in terms of education in schools, colleges and universities. And it was also said that since most of the Sinhalas are Buddhists, so it was said that Buddhism will be fostered and kind of promoted by the state, So in a way, what they were doing, they were imposing their own ideas on the rest of the population. And think about the Tamil population who were still there. They were feeling what was their feeling after seeing all these things. Even they wanted equal representation in the government. Even they wanted that their language, Tamil, should be recognized. Even they wanted that their religions should be recognized, but it didn't happen. So these Tamils who were staying in Sri Lanka, both the Sri Lankan Tamils as well as the Indian Tamils, they were feeling alienated. They were feeling alienated more and more. So they were repeatedly feeling that we are being excluded from all kinds of facilities, amenities, and even the policy making of the government. So this created a rift between the Sri Lankan Tamils as well as the Sinhala. So we can see that there was a rift, growing rift between the Sinhalas and the Tamils. So gradually we see that even Tamils, they started forming political parties. They also started forming organizations. Why? Because they wanted that their voice should also be heard by the government. They had a few demands, like the Sri Lankan Tamils, they were staying in the northern and eastern part of Sri Lanka. So they wanted that this area, which was dominated by the Tamils, should be autonomous. This area should be autonomous. Even they felt that Tamil should also be recognized as one of the languages, official language of Sri Lanka. Even if Sinhala is adopted as a language, Tamil should also be given preference as one of the languages of Sri Lanka, and even they should get opportunities in the government jobs, even in the ministerial level also. Ministers must be inducted from the Tamil community also. But the government, the Sinhala community dominated government of Sri Lanka, it was turning a deaf ear to all these things. So the Tamils started demanding for an autonomous state called Elam. So we see that their demand was unheard. Neither Tamil was being given the status of a national language or official language. Neither they were getting any autonomy in their own area, that is northern and eastern part, and it was also seen that they were not given opportunities in government jobs. Even in education facilities also they were not given equal opportunities. So this was creating rift between the Sinhalas and Tamils, more and more leading to civil war between 1950s and 1960s. So it was seen that there was a civil war. So whenever there is a civil war, what happens? A lot of life and property is destroyed. Sinhala people also died, the Tamils also died. There was not only destruction in population, there was destruction in property, and there was no solution to what would happen in future. So we'll carry forward this lesson in the next class. Thank you.